we really sort of knew that we wanted to create a company culture that we wanted to work at, that we enjoyed what we did, that we had a lot of integrity around, that people could really do what they wanted to do, that are and be mission driven. We wanted to create a culture where it wasn't micromanaged. We could give a lot of autonomy, but with that comes a lot of responsibility.
Welcome to Grow Think Tank. This is the one and only place where you will get insight from the founders and the CEOs of the fastest growing privately held companies. I am the host. My name is Gene Hammett. I help leaders and their teams navigate the defining moments of their growth. Are you ready to grow? Embracing change is not just for leadership, it's actually for all of the people inside your company. When you want to adapt, be agile, you've got to create a culture where people are willing to embrace change. And so today we're going to talk about what are the core elements of embracing change with co-CEO, co-founder of Soundstripe. We're with Travis Terrell. They were number 68 on the Inc. list. They grew at over 4,000% in the last 3 years, revenue-wise. And we talk about the importance of embracing change. We talk about what that means inside of our organization and leadership. What are the key mindset shifts that have to happen for us to be able to do this on a consistent basis? And today, that conversation is just for you, the founders and CEOs of fast growth companies. When you think about your own growth, do you have a plan? Are you ready to grow to that next level? Do you know what the exact leadership skill is you need to work on? Well, I work with executives and founders and their teams to help them continue growing and evolving. If you have any questions about that, make sure you check out the free content at genehammett.com. You can get a free session with me for coaching. Just go to Start Your Journey, find out more details there, genehammett.com. Now here's the interview with Travis. Travis, how are you?
I am great. How are you, Gene?
Fantastic. Excited to have you here on Growth Think Tank, where we talk about leadership and culture of fast growth companies. Tell us a little bit about Soundstripe.
Well, Soundstripe's been around since 2016. I started as a professional musician when I moved to Nashville, dropped out of college and made my mother very angry. But we mended those fences, obviously. Soundstripe provides world-class royalty-free music and sound effects and now video, launched that last week, to tens of thousands of freelance creators, digital content creators all over the world. And so we're based out of Nashville, Tennessee, employees everywhere, but yeah, we're having a lot of fun.
You made it to 68th on the Inc. list in a very short period of time, 68th fastest growth revenue over a 3-year period. What do you think the key was to that?
That's a good question. I would think part of that is that we found a tailwind of this market that was needing music, and they needed it in a way that we could give it to them that wasn't in the industry so far. So we were newish to market. So I think this tailwind of digital content creators that were creating content, and they needed music to license their projects. So that was certainly important. So we can't discount that. The other piece to it is that we constantly have tried to build a culture of evolving and changing, and so we have done several kind of iterations of that. We do not look like we used to in 2016. We look very different. So I think it's just a combination of that, the tailwind, and having the right people involved was certainly a big help.
Well, I can appreciate you saying that there's a tailwind, and there's always some opportunities and strategies that have taken companies to this level of growth, but you wouldn't do it alone. You've got 70 employees that you have? You've got a
70.
team around you. And when you think about the team, what are some of the core principles that you use to engage the team to grow along with you and keep up at this pace?
Well, I certainly, the one thing about team that is so important to us is making sure that we're all aligned on where we're going. So mission is incredibly important to the company. our mission is to keep creatives creating. And that is sort of central to everything that we do, and making sure that people that we're hiring people that are really in tune to that mission. The other thing is that I had core values ready before we actually started the company. It was my business partner would laugh at me saying, "Why do you have this deck?" And I was like, "I just think that this is going to be important." And he was like, "Well, we don't have anything to sell yet." I was like, "Well, but we will. That's that. I guess we can get to that at some point." And so we came up with 10 core values. I think that, and you hear every company has values of some sort, and you have, people that stick the values on a wall and just they never look at them. But I would say our culture really tries to think through these core values quite a bit. We talk about them a lot. We're very open and candid about how even, it sort of objectifies decision making. And for me, even I can break a core value and get in trouble at my own company. And so those are sort of the things that I would say the core values and the mission have been instrumental in sort of making sure the team is going in the right direction and we're getting the right people on board.
Now, hold on for a second. Travis just talked about everyone should be aligned to where you're going. This is really talking about the mission and vision of the company. And I think that a lot of the conversations I've had here on this podcast have talked about the importance of having a mission and a vision that people understand, they really are kind of engaged with and connected to. And your job as a leader is to make sure that happens on a consistent basis. It is more than just happening once. It is happening on a daily occurrence. And the more you are able to operationalize that vision of where you're going and align people together, you will have the kind of culture that is able to navigate through constant change. Today, we're talking about embracing change, but you get the point with you having this mission and vision, and some of the key concepts that Travis has talked about is really essential. Now back to Travis and the interview. Well, you're not the only person that has talked about the importance of values before you actually have a team. It is rare, I'll be honest with you, because most people think about product market fit. They think about the strategy and how we're going to make money and how we're going to, kind of get some things happening here. Did you learn that somewhere, or did you just something you thought was important?
No, I didn't learn it anywhere. I wasn't smart enough to sort of preemptively know all of this stuff. I think though, Mike and I had an idea of what kind of company we wanted to create. And so we didn't actually even know what we wanted to do, but I think we really sort of knew that we wanted to create a company culture that we wanted to work at, that we enjoyed what we did, that we had a lot of integrity around, that people could really do what they wanted to do, and be mission driven. We wanted to create a culture where it wasn't micromanaged. We could give a lot of autonomy, but with that comes a lot of responsibility. So these type of ideas, I sort of just cherry picked a lot of people that we liked. We loved some of the things that Tony Hsieh was doing at Zappos. We loved some of the things Netflix had done. Authors, of course. I was a huge follower of Seth Godin back in the day. So all of these type of things, we sort of just I like that, I like that, I like that. We kind of just melded together, this idea. But no, we didn't fully realize what we were doing. I think we just sort of knew really what we wanted it to not look like, and sort of that world where you're not appreciated as an employee, where there's a lot of micromanaging, things like that we weren't particularly fans of.
So a lot of the words you just talked about and kind of glossed over are very core to the reason why I think fast growth companies are fast growing. It's because they put their people first, because they really care about empowering them. They care about transparency. They care about their own individual growth and that experience they have. So, I
Mm,
appreciate you saying all those things. One of the things that you didn't mention yet was the ability to create a place where people embrace change. I think a
mm.
lot of organizations, at some level, we all know change is good for the most part, at least I do, but some people resist that. Was this a conscious thought to create a place where people embrace change?
Yes, that was, and what's funny is we now, now that we've hired software teams and that sort of thing, we know about agile development or agile. I'm not even sure how you say it, but there's this framework that software developers use. We didn't know anything about that when we started the company, but we knew that we knew that the world was changing. The world was constantly changing. That's the one constant, is that it changes. And that goes for businesses and markets and customer behavior and sort of that thing. And we knew that was going to change. So we needed to create an organization that was changing along with it. And getting out in front of it and really being proactive instead of reactive. So that was incredibly important to us. So one, I think one of your guests was Andy Stanley, right? We actually copied one of his core values. One of them is to make it better, and then the other one is date the model, marry the mission. And something I think I heard him say one time in some random interview, but it was that became sort of a mantra for us, that we're going to not we're going to get married to the mission, the why, the reason the company exists, but know that the how, the what, the model is going to constantly evolve and change. And we tell our employees this, that we hire today, that hey, if you like what we're doing, hey, in 5 years, bet that we're probably not going to be doing it. And so we cannot get into that mentality that it's going to just stay the same forever. So that's we've tried to adopt that philosophy.
When you heard Travis talk about being proactive versus reactive, did you kind of agree with that internally? Well, what I've seen is many leaders understand that being proactive is extremely important to the success of the company. You can't just wait for things to happen. But a lot of leaders are indecisive, and some of those leaders are not able to be as proactive as they want to be. One way to make sure you're being proactive is to be really clear about where you're going and why you're going there. Because when you understand those things, you have a chance to be much more proactive. And if you can actually communicate that to your employees, you have a much better chance to keep them aligned together around that. It follows the same thing that we talked about the mission and vision a little bit earlier inside this interview. Now back to Travis. So a lot of leaders talk about embracing change. Would we see anything different in the way you engage inside meetings or inside your kind of collaborations about change?
Well, yeah, what's funny is I talked about with somebody the other day about this, and how it is easy for people to say they embrace change. And then it's another thing to yell at an employee or fire an employee because they messed up, and or messed up because they tried something new and it failed. And so you have to really sort of buy into what you're talking about. And so it's not a core value for us, but we certainly follow it pretty closely, is to fail quickly and cheaply. So that whole idea is that you can try something, and we constantly use the scientific method. In order to try something new, you have a theory about the world. Maybe you have a theory that this new product is going to be great, or this market, we need to go into Germany, or we need to do whatever you want. You have a theory about it. Now we need to test it. We're not going to put $10 million into this to invest in. We're not going on gut and feel and instinct. We're going to use data backed decisions. We're going to put a toe in to say, okay, what do we think about this? And like, let's use data to help inform us. And then we're going to step into it pretty hard if we need to or want to. So these type of things we try to instill in people, that you can have an idea, just like I can have an idea, but let's test this idea. And let's say we test it, and if it fails, that's totally fine. And we can't really get hung up on the failure itself. It's what are we going to learn from that failure to kind of to create an iteration of that. And so that's kind of the whole framework of being agile, is constantly sort of tweaking and iterating on an idea or a theory. So that's sort of how we think.
Let me break in here for a second. If you happen to be listening to this on your iPhone or maybe even your laptop, do you know that we have a channel on YouTube? If you want to become a better leader, be more visionary, be more effective, there's some special content we only put on YouTube. You can go there and get it now. Just go to genehammett.com/YouTube. It's absolutely free. It's just for you. And if you want to be a founder or a CEO of a fast growth company and learn from the best, make sure you go to YouTube right now, genehammett.com/YouTube. Back to the interview. So a lot of successful companies have embraced this we fail forward. We really understand that failure is a part of the path. And, some leaders have the resistance to that. When you're working with a one-on-one employee who's bringing to you a problem, does your conversation change around helping them see that they need to go out there and create some new ways or new path forward?
Yeah, I would say one thing that I heard Jeff Bezos say that it really stuck with me once is that he said, you can fail. Like, there's a difference between failing at a new thing, and then there's a difference between failing at a new thing and failing at operational excellence, And so what he means by that is that it depends on what it is we're trying to accomplish. If there is something that is, pretty routine to Soundstripe. There's a lot of things that are routine to Soundstripe by now, like things like customer service or product requirements or engineering or SEO or things like that. Then we want to perform those things the best to our ability, and so we want those things to be really tidied up and nice. Now, the things that we can experiment on, we're going to say that we're experimenting on it, and it can be deemed a failure, and that's fine. But we're kind of investing appropriately to do that. I think a lot of companies tend to put fail forward, fail all the time, fail, and they kind of put it in their mantra everywhere. And sort of, it doesn't actually give you the excuse to fail at everything. It just gives you the excuse because it really should be, you're failing at new, innovative, inventive things that have not yet been proved out. And we try to make that distinction here, if that makes sense.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Travis. Since we're talking about failure, I want to kind of zoom into your own leadership. Is there something you've had to learn the hard way that you can share with us today that maybe we can learn from it? Maybe it's something you've overcame or had to shift your own mindset around.
Yeah, you know what? I, of course, made so many mistakes. I've probably lost the company, a lot of money. But I think the biggest mistake that really keeps me up at night, and I tend to make it. I've made it more than once. Will continue to make it, and that is indecision and failure to make a decision about something. When I look back at my career, it's usually that I'm most regretful of. It's not that I made a wrong decision about the product and that it was just a failure and customers didn't like it. And no, we've made so many of those type of failures, but we sort of pick up, move on, and say, well, customers didn't adopt this the way we wanted it to. Well, what if we try this or this or this? And we sort of find the answer. And that's, this agility that we keep talking to. But the part that I keep, trying to not have is this paralysis from analysis, constantly thinking that I've got to make the right decision. I am a student pilot as well, and so they teach you in flight school to when you're practicing emergency landing, they'll shut off the engine or they'll choke it down. They don't actually shut it off, but they'll say, okay, where are we going to land? And you need to decide right now. And they constantly teach you to decide, like think about where we're going, because the minute if you lose 100 feet of altitude and airspeed, your chances of surviving are very limited, if you keep pushing off. And if you push off where you're going to emergency land till you're 100 feet off the ground, it's not going to work out great. So those are the things that I try to think about. I'm not an expert at it by any means, but it's those are the big mistakes that I'm trying to get better at.
Travis, I wanted to say thank you so much for being a part of Growth Think Tank, sharing your experience and journey, talking about embracing change, fast growth, leadership, culture. We've covered a lot today. I just want to say I appreciate you being here.
Thanks so much.
Well, that wraps up another incredible episode here at Growth Think Tank. I want to remind you that, embracing change is not for just your people. It's for your leadership. You have to continue to evolve as a leader. Hopefully you'll continue to do that. If you have any questions about what your next step is, make sure you reach out to me. You can check out some of the free resources we have at Gene Hammett. You can check out a place in there where you can actually get me on the phone. We can actually talk about your business, talk about what's really keeping you back. And if you have that same issue that Travis has around indecision, I can help you with that as well. So as you continue your journey of leadership and you think of growth and you think of culture, make sure you think of Growth Think Tank. As always, lead with courage. We'll see you next time.